Amanda Grellner, attorney at law.
I'm Deanna Scott, and I'm a solo practitioner in Springfield, Missouri.
I'm Michael Sharma-Crawford, and I'm a partner in Sharma-Crawford Attorneys at Law and one of the founding members of the clinic.
And my name is Rekha Sharma-Crawford. I am also a partner in Sharma-Crawford Attorneys at Law, and I am the other founding member of the clinic.
Yeah, my name is Bob Tomaso, and I am the office managing partner of the St. Louis office of Husch Blackwell.
I take occasionally a case for the Samaritan Center. More often than not, those are family law cases. In this case, I took a paternity case, which would be a custody case where there wasn't a marriage, but it was between two parties. And it was an indigent woman with a child, and father had been accused of some serious drug use, and so we had a number of hearings and a trial ultimately. I do, through my private practice, I do all of the Osage County Public Administrator's legal work. So I do all the filing of his guardianships, all the filing of his annual settlements, those types of things. And most of the time, in fact probably 98% of the time, those people are indigent. And so there is no money to be collected. And so I do all of that work pro bono as well. I grew up there in Osage County, and I feel like, and I came back there to practice, and I feel like that's my contribution back to the community where I grew up. I feel like many of us are blessed so that we have an opportunity to be able to give back and to be able to do that work without charging. So it's nice that you have an opportunity to do those kinds of things.
I think none of us have gotten where we are on our own. None of us are islands. And so I think it's important that we pay forward the blessings that we've been given. One of the cases I did recently was a guardianship for a young man who didn't believe that he needed a guardian, but he had severe mental disabilities to the point that it was life-threatening, and he had been in ICU several occasions because he was not taking care of himself. So I represented his father in a case to help get guardianship for him. It was very difficult for the family because it was hard for them to accept that they needed to do that, but they also knew that it was something they wanted to do to ensure that he survived and that he would be safe and healthy. And that was very rewarding to be able to help someone who couldn't help himself and didn't even understand that he needed to help himself.
There are some fantastic nonprofits that serve indigent non-citizens in St. Louis. There were really none here in the Kansas City area. And when I say that, I'm talking about non-citizens that support nonprofits that support the undocumented who are in removal proceedings, who are facing an immigration judge. And as our practice grew, we recognized that void, and we would take cases that we could on a low cost or a pro bono basis as we existed in the firm. And then in 2010 we bought a building, in 2011 we moved in, and we finally had the actual physical space to bring somebody on to take those cases. And in that moment, that's when we actually were able to create the clinic.
Generally, who it is it is an individual who is facing removal proceedings in the Kansas City Immigration Court. But because immigration removal proceedings are civil in nature, there's no right to counsel. So if there's no such thing as a court-appointed attorney. So if you don't have a resource to get an attorney, then you have to represent yourself. And it's just a very daunting thing. And they have found that, generally, if you look at someone who's going through removal proceedings by themselves, probably 80 to 90% of them will not succeed.
And that number jumps to, 40–50% succeed with an attorney.
So, there's so many cases. There's a total of, since its inception, there's been 500 cases that have gone through the clinic. There's an active caseload of approximately 172 cases at any given point, which is extraordinary for one attorney and one assistant.
If we reach out and say, I have a pro bono case or the clinic has a need, we have found that our brothers and sisters in the legal community are more than willing to step up and say, we'll be glad to help with what you need and what we can do for you, and to assist that process. So it's something that you don't take just so that you feel good. You take because it's the right thing to do, and in that you'll find that reward.
It's really an historic commitment. The firm and all the firms that make it up of Husch Blackwell have long been committed to giving back to the community. We give our lawyers credit for a billable hour for approved pro bono work. And that's a way, in addition to every other reason we should be active in pro bono, that's a way to encourage people to become active. So in addition to the 30 people that volunteered for legal services, and we have a host of other causes that we represent, I think we logged over 29,000 hours towards pro bono in 2016. One of the stories that Patty Hegman was kind enough to tell was of our colleague Mike Tallis. He took on a case for legal services where at first blush you would say just a standard run-of-the-mill kind of ordinary big deal case. A woman hadn't been able to pay her rent for about 6 months and she was being evicted. So Mike met with the client and went to her apartment and heard the client's story and realized that the landlord hadn't kept up his part of the bargain to provide habitable living space for this client. And Mike got some pictures and prepped the client and went to court. And not only did the judge say, ma'am, client of Husch Blackwell, you don't have to pay for that last 6 months because what you were living in was uninhabitable and your landlord breached his agreement with you. But the judge also entered an order requiring that landlord to bring that space up to habitable condition very promptly, which was to the benefit of our client as well. As far as we know, and this was last year, that client's still living in the space and it's habitable space. So that's very rewarding for Mike, and it's very rewarding for the rest of us to hear that kind of story and the impact that you can make in people's lives.